Hi there. We have Carrie and Melissa here live with you today. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Hi, how are you?
Great. We're so
Good.
excited about today because Melissa is going to be teaching on using this book right here. We have the MetaRepertory by Robin Murphy, and then also his Materia Medica. So I've got them open with lots of sticky notes in between pages because we have questions. But we're looking forward to Melissa kind of just going through how to use these books. So if you are a beginner, let me ask you first, Melissa, if somebody is a beginner in homeopathy, are these recommended books? Are they more for the advanced?
I think beginners should have them.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so when you look at this book, it's easy to get overwhelmed. There's two of them.
Right.
And you open it up and you're like, but if you really want to do homeopathy, you're going to need these eventually. There's no reason to wait. You can learn slowly how to use them, and you're going to need them. So I would say anybody that really wants to treat their family with homeopathy needs the books.
Okay. And do you want to give a real quick description of who Robin Murphy was?
Yes. Oh, goodness. So Robin Murphy was my teacher. That's who I learned from. And so he passed away, was it this year? Or it might have been, it was late last year, I think. Mm-hmm. But he was a naturopathic doctor who focused more on homeopathy. So as a naturopathic doctor, he did, supplements and herbs and, all other things too, besides homeopathy. But he really was a fantastic, amazing, famous homeopath. And he wrote these books. So there are lots of different Materia Medicas and repertories out there. But I have his books because I was his student. And I just like him the best. So he's done so many talks all over. He really was a genius and brilliant in homeopathy. Definitely a leader in homeopathy.
Yes. And so these are the fourth edition books that we're talking about today. We do carry these at Taproots if you don't have them yet. But today we just thought we'd go through something very common that if you have the books at home, you might want to open them up and flip through the pages with us. If you don't, this might be something you play back at a later date when you have the books. But we're going to kind of walk through what you would do if someone in the family had a sore throat to figure out what the best remedy for that person would be. So where would you start, Melissa?
Yeah, we're going to do very, very basic, introduction to this. But first of all, I should have also said that the repertory is an index of remedies. So when you look in here, there are thousands and thousands of remedies in this book with the condition attached to the condition or the symptom. And then the Materia Medica is the dictionary of homeopathic remedies. So all of the remedies are found in the Materia Medica and the whole picture, what those remedies look like. So you need both books. You start in the repertory always with your symptom or your diagnosis. And then after you get a list of remedies down, then you move to the Materia Medica to read about those remedies to decide which one fits you best.
I'll just try to show the table of contents here in the repertory so you can have an idea of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So we would jump to throat.
To the throat chapter. That's right. So if somebody has a sore throat, you're going to go to the throat chapter. Mm-hmm. And they're in alphabetical order for the most part. So you could, throat T is going to be near the back. But let's just say you weren't sure where to go, what to do. You can always start in the very back in the index. And in this one, it's called the meta word index. So in the index, you can just look up throat. Now, you can try looking up sore throat first and you won't find it, but that's how you're going to learn. So you just look up throat, see what page it's on. It begins on page 1995. So we turn to page 1995, and that's just the beginning of the throat chapter, and we're in the repertory. So you see general complaints of the throat to begin with, and you see all those remedies. So that's not where I would start because of the big list of remedies. We need to really narrow that down. And so you're going to start asking the person that you're helping questions about the sore throat. So we need to know, what does it feel like? Describe it. Which side does it hurt on? What makes it feel better and what makes it worse? And those are some of the questions that
Real
you might
quick,
have.
just so we have an understanding of what we're looking at. Like when I'm looking at this throat, all the remedies that are listed first under throat, and there's some in bold, some in capitals. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, very good. So in the front of this repertory on page 3, it tells you under number 3, remedy gradings and formatting. So it explains there what these mean. So the all caps, bold, underlined is 4 points. And then the all caps bold is 3 points. Then the bold lowercase is 2 points, and the just plain type is 1 point. So if you're working from a different repertory, you're going to did theirs. Not every repertory is set up the exact same way. So then we know, just at looking at throat general complaints of, just scanning that's a rubric, first of all. So that's what we call a rubric. Throat general complaints of is your first rubric you see there. So just looking in that rubric, not the sub rubrics that start to come underneath that, you see the top remedies are, if you see any that are underlined, which I don't, then those would be number 1, but we don't see any underlined. So then we're going to all caps bold. So we see Apis, Belladonna, Causticum, Ferrum Phos, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I don't know, 10 or so remedies that are top of the line for first ones that you would look at.
Mm-hmm.
So you could write those down in a list, but I think that's going to take you a lot of time. And so we're going to narrow it down to sub rubrics. So we have our sub rubrics are, if it's a look, it starts right there with left-sided or right-sided. That's
right.
the first question you can ask a person about a sore throat. Which side does it hurt on? So if they say left-sided, then okay, your left-sided sore throat remedies are, the top ones are your all caps bold, Calibic, Lachesis, Laccaninum, Phosphorus, Roostox. Those are the top
already
ones.
put the list way down. That's great.
Yeah. So that, yes. So you make, okay, great. I've got a left-sided sore throat. I'm going to write those remedies down. I just take a piece of paper at the top and make columns 1, 2, 3, 4, and start, draw your lines, and under those remedy names, you're going to write left-sided because that matches your picture. Okay. So then what if your sore throat goes from the left, then goes over to the right?
Mm-hmm.
It's there, left and right. That's another sub rubric under left. Then you see it narrows it down even more to Lachesis and Roostox.
Wow, that's so cool. I love it. Now, I will say there could be, a young mom watching that's going, hey, if my kid is in pain, I don't have time to look all that up.
That's right. That's true. And so that's why we always use protocols first. If you have a protocol, use it. Don't even try to do all of this if you have a protocol. If you don't have a protocol, this is the process. And what you can do, what I did a long, long time ago when my oldest was little, he was so mad and screaming and in pain. I gave him chamomilla to calm him down so that I could go and do this and think. And the chamomilla put him to sleep, which is a good sign. And I could literally sit down then and think. But when he woke up, it was all gone and there was nothing else to do.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so if it went from, let's say it was on the left side, but let's say there was also a big lump or something like that.
Okay. So if you felt a lump, or it feels as if there's a lump?
As if there's a lump.
Okay, so it feels as if there's a lump. So that's a sensation. But what we can do is see if the word lump is in this throat chapter, which I'm sure positive that it is. So we're going to go on. It's in alphabetical order.
There's so many pages on throat.
Lump. Okay, so lump begins on page 2011.
Yep.
Sensation of lump. Okay, so now you see a ton of remedies under that rubric. So you're going to narrow it down if you can. But also, what were those 2 or 4 main remedies we just found? Are those listed under just lump? If they are, then you add the word lump under that remedy on your paper, because you're making a list of the remedies and what symptoms they cover that are matching your picture.
Okay.
All right. So we're looking, and let's say that the lump is aggravated by swallowing. So you're asking the person, what does it feel like? What's the sensation? Remember, we don't want to ask leading questions. So we're not going to say, does it hurt worse when you're swallowing? Try not to say that. So if they say it hurt, it's worse when I swallow. So then you turn over to page 2012 and you see swallowing, comma, AGG, right hand column. AGG is aggravated by. So then you see there's lachesis again. We've already seen lachesis a couple of times now. And you see Napier is a big one. So you see lachesis and Napier are big ones for that. Maybe it's just on empty swallowing. So maybe they're not trying to eat food or drink. Then you look at that sub-rubric and you see a couple of bolded remedies. What if the person says their throat is dry? That's a very common thing right now. So we turn over to dryness in the throat. And this is why it's important to ask all the questions, get as much detail. This is why it's hard when people text me and say, I have a quick question.
Right. It's never quick.
Not quick. I'm sorry. I love y'all. And I could spend all day, every day answering your quick questions, but they're not. Because in homeopathy, we need all the details to get the best remedy.
Right.
So you see dryness there on page 2003. Huge rubric, lots of remedies under that. So we ask some more questions. Is there a time of day that it's better or worse? What makes it better or worse? So let's say what symptoms are coming along with? Is there anything else? Oh yeah, I have a headache. Okay, well here's headache during a headache. So their throat is dry during a headache. There's just one remedy here.
Okay, real quick, where are you? So you're under dryness with a headache? Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
2003, and that's just, let's just say, let's back up and say with coughing. So still 2003, right hand column, coughing with is a sub rubric, and you see some bolded remedies. You see sanguinaria is bold and all caps, so you're going to make sure to pay attention to sanguinaria.
Okay.
So as you go through and you're making your list, right? You're writing down all the symptoms that match your picture. You might, there might be a fever with it. There might be a cough with it. There might be runny nose, stuffy nose, whatever else comes with it. You go through the repertory. You might not find those things within the throat chapter, but you might. So just like we found headache.
So let me ask you something.
Okay.
Let's say that this person has a sore throat, the sensation that there's a lump there and it's painful, when they swallow, but they do also have that headache with a dry throat. So because I'm seeing nausea as the only remedy with the headache and dryness of a sore throat, do you start there, or would you?
That's a good question. Because if nausea was all caps bold or all caps bold underline, then I would say, yeah, we need to look at nausea. But because it's plain tight, I'm probably going to skip that one and go to the headache chapter, Well, there might even be a headache chapter, and then go that way and see if there's sore throat, with sore throat or with dry throat. I would go because it's just one remedy.
So maybe if it was only a headache with a dry sore throat, then you might start with nausea. But because there's these other symptoms, you keep looking a little farther. Okay.
You always want to know, what things look like. So if you're asking about, since we're on throat, what does the throat look like? Is it red? Angry red, just a light red? Are there white spots on it? You can look all those things up in here too. Is it better for warm drinks? And then you also see sore pain on page 2027. So you want to look at that rubric also, because the whole, if the problem is sore throat, there's obviously pain. We need to look at that one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking through the repertory, it's probably going to prompt more questions for your person. You might see hoarseness with and say, oh, is there, how's your voice? Well, you can hear them if you're talking to them. If you hear that this is part of your observation, if you hear that their voice is hoarse, then you're going to look at that hoarseness with sub-rubric on 2027.
Okay. So once you have that chart you're talking about and you have, most of your symptoms covered and you're just then looking up how many different remedies do you think? Just a couple because you're looking at the longest lists?
Yeah, get your top 3 or 4 that have the longest list. Yes. The longest list wins. So if you got one remedy that has 10 that covers all your symptoms and the other remedies cover most of, you're going to start with that one that covers all. Go to the Materia Medica then. So let's just say it is Apis. Let's just say Apis comes up as your remedy. So we go to Apis. You know what? Let's say Lachesis because that really did show up several times.
Okay.
Let's look at Lachesis. So we go to Lachesis. It's alphabetical order again. You're in the Materia Medica. And LACH, Lachesis muta. Let me say this too. When you're looking at these in the repertory at these abbreviations, if you don't know what it is, look in the back.
Okay.
In the back it tells you, and it's under the MetaRemedy Index is what it's called. So it tells you, that pH-AC means Phosphoricum acidum, so that you can go and look it up.
Okay. Before we switch to the Materia Medica, I was going to ask you about the back of the repertory real quick, because there is the Meta Word Index, which we went through with the sore throat.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the Meta Remedy, which I guess you're really only using if you need the long name.
Right, if you don't know the abbreviation. Mm-hmm.
And then there's the clinicals, which is this is part of the new section that they added with the 4th edition, right?
Let's see, where are you? What page?
The clinicals are just before the Meta Remedy section.
Yeah, so the clinical generals, the clinical section is a general. See, like vomiting is in there. So if you're not in vertigo's in there, if you're not sure when to use that section, you're going to know when you look in the back in the index. If you're looking for vomiting, it's going to tell you to go to page 2499, which is in the clinical generals section. Okay. And as you use the repertory, you're going to learn where to look first instead of having to go to the index.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then, all right, so Lachesis is page 1176 in the Materia Medica.
And it is a huge remedy. It's pages long. It's a big one. It's a beautiful remedy. So Lachesis, so it shows you there what it's made from. And then you see the clinical, and you see these bolded words. So the bold words are the ones, you can skim this, and see if it has your symptoms there. But really it would benefit you to read the clinical section, to look for your picture, see if it matches your picture. You can read the homeopathic section, but then we're going to skip mind, unless this person's mental picture has changed with this sore throat. So let's say they've suddenly become very frightful and angry, or confused. Those are some mental and they're not normally. Then you want to look at the mind section.
Okay.
See if it matches. You are gonna skip. Mine is huge. You're gonna skip abdomen unless the sore throat is affecting your abdomen in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna skip back, breasts. Look at causations. If you know the etiology, what has caused this condition, look at that. See if you see it in there. You're going to skip chest unless it is part of the picture. Look at cough if there's a cough, ears if ears are affected, eyes if eyes are affected, and so on.
All these bolded sections, you really only need to pay attention to if that part of the body has changed.
Has changed. Very good. Yes.
Okay, and then the modalities, I would think.
That's right. Modalities, we need to look at those. So the modalities are what makes it better, what makes it worse. So you always want to ask that in every condition. It doesn't matter if it's chronic or acute. You want to know what makes it better and what makes it worse. Modalities and etiology.
Now, if the modality didn't match, but a lot of the symptoms did, I think it's still a good choice.
Good question. So it doesn't have to match. It's not going to match 100%, and it doesn't have to. So again, when you've got your list from your repertory and you've got one remedy, let's say lachesis covers all of your symptoms, you're going to read lachesis to confirm. Yep. Yes. Okay. Yes. This looks good. Yep. This looks good. We're definitely not looking for 100%. And there's even a throat section, in each of these remedies. So,
you can see this takes a lot of time if you're watching. I mean, we've just been looking for 20 minutes or so. And
has it been 20 minutes already?
I know, isn't that crazy? It takes time.
Yeah.
So
it does take time.
Yeah.
It's a great skill to have. These are great resources to have. When you don't have a protocol and or when you don't know, when you don't have the throat calm,
right.
If you don't have the combination remedies, or if the combo remedies or the protocol aren't working, this is your next step.
Okay. Great. Well, I'm glad you've enlightened us all, and we can grow our appreciation for the hard work that you do behind the scenes. Because I think, like you said in the beginning, a lot of people think it's a quick question. I have a sore throat. What do I take? It's not that easy.
Yeah, it's not. But you know what? After 20-something years of doing it, I know the remedies so well. It's not, I never have to look them up. Because really, I should encourage homeopaths, especially young homeopaths, you should still go look things up. But it's faster. I'm so much faster, of course, than I used to be.
Right. And the other thing too, I know you're big on, teaching people to take good notes, which is so important, because I know for me and my own family, you might notice that a certain child picks up a certain type of illness or just responds to viruses in a particular way. Yeah. And then you find a good remedy for that child, and that remedy usually works, for this child.
That's right. So then you don't even have to go through all that. So when my 15-year-old daughter gets sick, I do Ferrum Phos first with her, because that seems to be her remedy. And then if that's not working, then we go through the process of everything else.
Yep. That's great. Well, as always, if you need help with an acute or chronic consult, melissacrenshaw.com. She's a certified homeopath for over 20 years. She's been helping families find freedom with their own healthcare. And we so appreciate your time, Melissa. I thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to next time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your customers with me.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.